Very good. Well, okay, with that, I'm going to call to order the Committee of the Whole meeting for Monday, January 11th. It's 5:30 p.m. We have one main item on the agenda tonight, and that's the Community and Economic Development 2020 wrap-up, which has a lot of great material that I knew the whole council would be interested in. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Chip Vincent to walk us through.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Council President Corman and council members. This is a little bit unusual that we're doing this at the Committee of the Whole meeting, because every year at the beginning of the Planning and Development Committee every year, we put together a work program working with the mayor's office and the council and the planning commission. And then we love to come back at the end of the year to say, this is what we started and this is what we finished, because it's amazing how fast a year goes, but it's always important for us to work together with the council to recognize the things that we started and we finished over the course of a year. But because of scheduling conflicts and all the issues this last year, we never were in a place where we could do the final wrap up. So talking to Council President Corman, who has chaired the P&D last year, he goes, you know what, we've got 2 new members on the Planning and Development Committee beginning of next year, and this would be great if we just brought all this wrap up to the full council, because the full council is really interested in this subject matter. So instead of doing it as we typically would at the end of the P&D, we're bringing it to you all. So having said that, we've got 4 things that we're going to cover at a high level tonight. Cliff Long is going to provide an economic development update for you all. Angie Matthias is going to walk through a few of the items that are kind of high level in terms of what we accomplished on the docket in the comp plan amendment cycle this year. Katie Bucco-Morales is going to take you through the details of our accessory dwelling unit rules. And then finally, we're going to finish with Hannah Bondmiller and the work that she's doing and has accomplished on the Housing Action Plan. So kind of a full agenda. We're going to try to keep a high level. The thing that I want to share with you all is that despite everything that happened in 2020, I am so amazed and impressed by the work all of us collectively did in 2020 to advance the important issues for the Renton community we serve. So with that, I will turn it over to Cliff Long for the economic development update.
Okay, thank you, Chip.
Thank you, Chip. President Corman, members of council, Cliff Long and Economic Development. I'm going to share my screen now, if that's okay, and walk you through a little presentation of some of the highlights from 2020. Can everybody see that okay?
Yes.
Wonderful. So, as you know, 2020 was a challenging year, but we were, as Chip said, really amazed at the accomplishments that we were able to come together as a team, both in the Economic Development Division and throughout Community and Economic Development Department, to keep services going for our community. We spent a lot of this year, as you can imagine, working on COVID-19 response. And very early on in the pandemic, back in March, when we made the shift to working at home, we began to think about how businesses were going to be impacted by the stay-at-home orders and the shutdowns and what was to follow. The first thing we did was retool all our websites and really try to provide accurate, current information to the business community on resources that were available. We put together a series of newsletters, and we sent those to every business with a Renton business license. And we did a number of those throughout the year. We built a new Facebook page, basically a business-to-business page to help businesses stay in contact and to be able to share and promote. And we were able to partner with our colleagues on the east side of the cities of Redmond, Kirkland, Bellevue, Issaquah. And we were able to put some resources into our Startup 425 business training efforts to actually hire direct business counseling for the benefit of our businesses on the east side. One of the biggest accomplishments that we were able to put together, this was a heavy lift because it wasn't anything that we'd ever been able to do in Washington before, but with the help of our finance department and our city attorney's office and collaboration with a number of our neighboring communities, we figured out a way to be able to use some of the funds that were granted to the city in the CARES Act for direct business grants back to businesses. We're really proud of this effort. We were able to give out over $1.6 million to 225 Renton small businesses. And of those, 115 of those grants were awarded to minority-owned businesses. 110 of those grants went to women-owned businesses, and 9 of those grants were awarded to veteran-owned businesses. We also, together with our Renton Community Marketing Campaign partners and some grant funds that we received from King County, we put together some really enhanced efforts on Shop Local and trying to get folks to spend their money here in the community as much as possible. This is an example of one of the campaigns that we put together. This is called the Make Yourself at Home campaign. Some of this you can see was directly targeted at helping promote Renton for holiday shopping, but we built the program with a shelf life that it goes beyond just the holidays and continues to try to push traffic to our local Renton businesses as much as possible. A fun part of that campaign is called the Meet Your Neighbor campaign, and you may have seen it on social media, but we were able to partner with several of our small community businesses to highlight the diversity of our business community. And we were able to put together marketing materials and packets on each of these, and they're available in English and also in multiple different languages based on the customer base. So here's an example of a Vietnamese translation for Viet Hoa. Throughout the year, there was a continued focus on arts and culture. We wanted to make sure that we maintained our investment in arts throughout the year. And just in the last few months of the year, 6 major art public art pieces were funded. And over the course of the year, 26 organizations and artists received funding through the Renton Municipal Arts Commission. Here's 6 of those projects that were just completed. I hope you've seen each one of them, but they're all very unique. The Jimmy's Dragon mural is above it sits on the side of the Renton Civic Theater above the old Y2 grocery. And it was done by the same artist who did the 4 Cows mural on 3rd as well. The Renton Loop was installed, and I hope everybody has had a chance to see it, and especially see it at night. We did our largest utility box wrap, and that was on Renton Hill. In the Sunset neighborhood, we were able to take the side of the laundromat that faced RHA and did what's called the Sunset Geo mural. We did a wonderful mural in the Benson community neighborhood on a big retaining wall there at 116th and Petrovitsky. And then, of course, the big, beautiful wing statues that are at the new Sunset Neighborhood Park. We continue to push forward on some large development projects for the community, including working with Cosmos on the redevelopment of the 200 Mill project and making progress there. Top Golf has received all its permits and had its pre-construction meeting and should break ground here shortly. So we're excited to see that project come to fruition after a number of years. Probably the area of town, if you get out and about and look around, that is undergoing the most change right now is in the Sunset neighborhood. And a number of accomplishments have come to fruition there this year that we're really excited to see change in the community. First of all, you're all aware of the Sunset Neighborhood Center opening and the partnership that came together to form that great asset for the neighborhood. The Willow Crest Townhomes project is well underway, and this is a unique project for the community in that it's an affordable home ownership project. The land was donated to the project by the Renton Housing Authority, and it's developed by the Homestead Community Land Trust, which will ensure that it's affordable long into the future. And it's a very, very attractive project, and I would encourage each of you to go by and take a look. It's deep green rated, so it's going to have solar facilities on each of the roofs and may actually generate a surplus of energy. The Sunset Oaks apartment directly to the north of the Sunset Neighborhood Park is under construction. It started late summer here this year, or excuse me, late spring this year, and should be done late summer of 2021. And this is a 60-unit project made affordable for households who make between 40 and 80% of median income. And it's a very attractive project too. I don't think this particular rendering does justice to what the buildings will look like, but it's very, very attractive and a nice anchor on the park. The Sunset Terrace apartments is another real game changer for kind of anchoring the park in the neighborhood. And this is the market rate units that are going next to the Renton Highlands Library. 108 units there, plus some commercial space and storefront on the corner. It's also scheduled to be completed by the end of this year. And here's some renderings for that. So you can really see what a gateway feature this is going to be on the corner as you come into the park. And there it is next to the Renton Highlands Library. And here's the view from the park side. So a very, very attractive asset for the community. And then, of course, there's the Solera Master Plan, which is the redevelopment of the Greater Highlands Shopping Center. And really want to give kudos to our planning team, to Matt and Vanessa, and also Mark Santos Johnson from our team to work with the developer here to really put together an attractive mixed income development. It's going to have 275 affordable and 275 market rate apartments. And then it's also going to have 102 market rate townhomes on the back side of the project. And it's going to be, it fronts right up onto the Sunset, and it's really going to change the look of that neighborhood. And I think they've designed a very nice looking project. Of course, we are well underway in the downtown streetscape projects and the intersection improvements at Wells and Williams and 2nd and 3rd. The light standards are up. Those street lights have been installed. And things are going to change very rapidly. Most of the work that's been done so far has been kind of the hidden underground things that tear the streets up, but it'll come back together very nicely and really beautify our downtown. In addition to the intersection improvements, we're also doing all new streetscape down Wells, and That's phase one of our ongoing streetscape enhancement projects that council has approved through funding with our community development block grant dollars. And as part of our continuous improvement downtown, we're looking to find areas where we can build additional parklets, like this one that we did as a demonstration next to Boon Boona Coffee downtown. We'd like to see if we could install more outdoor seating and amenities like this throughout downtown. And finally, I would just encourage everyone on council, if you haven't had a chance, please visit your app store of your choice and download our Visit Renton app. And there's a number of great tours on there that talk about both our business community and a number of the art projects that are available downtown. So thank you.
Well, Cliff, I want to thank you for that great presentation and all the hard work. And I know that it's been work by many, many people, and I couldn't begin to try and name them without accidentally leaving out some. But all the beautiful new artwork, I do want to thank the Arts Commission for working with you on that, and all the local artists that participated. Both the downtown and the Highlands work, it's been a rough go in both areas, and with the pandemic, it's been really challenging. I was just taking a walk through the Highlands in the rain a couple days ago, and just amazed at all the work coming along with the park and the construction around it. And of course, our downtown, what we're going to see is as the pandemic does lift and as the weather gets nice, we're going to be looking at what feels like an all new kind of core of our Renton Highlands as well as our downtown. So it's really exciting. And I want to just thank you for all that work and thank everybody that's been working with you on that. Any questions for Cliff? Ruth.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Cliff. One question. During the pandemic and the construction of the wells, Williamson Wells conversion, how we have been addressing and helping the business that have been struggled right there because of not just of the pandemic, but also because of the construction that is in front of their business. And when do you think, or maybe this is a question for Public Works, but when you guys think that they are going to be able to conduct business regularly, normally?
Yeah, thank you, Councilmember Perez. I don't have the complete schedule for the Wells and Williams work, and I would defer that to Martin and his team. But I would like to say that and give a giant shout out to Public Works for as well as our development engineering team for the work that they've done in terms of outreach to local businesses and trying to help support them and address their needs throughout this construction. They've done several things in terms of additional signage and what's open. They've installed mid-block crossings and tried to work to ensure that to the extent possible, everybody can do business as well as they can.
Okay. Angelina?
Thank you. Let me go ahead and lower my hand. Thank you so much, Cliff. This was fabulous. I just had a couple of questions pertaining specifically to that development that's next to the library. With regards to the retail that's underneath, is this a development where we have given some capacity for potential for restaurants?
Yes, Councilmember Benedetti, I believe, and I don't have the square footage in front of me. Chip or someone from our planning team might recall that readily, but yes, there is the capacity to do retail and restaurant on the first floor, and I think especially on both the corner that faces Sunset and the corner that faces the park, I think there's some great opportunities for for small business in there.
Okay. And related, I remember that the original sunset plan where where there was a hope for, and there still is, that we'll be able to put some affordable housing surrounding the park, more affordable housing surrounding the park. There was a hope in that plan that we would be able to bring in social services agencies and have them be in those spaces. Are we potentially looking at courting some of those social service agencies and partners for that retail space to be able to provide services to the residents in that community?
Councilmember Benedetti, I think that the Sunset the Sunset Neighborhood Center that was just opened has fulfilled a portion of that demand with Health Point and Neighborhood House and a number of Valley Cities Counseling, a number of the folks who will be able to use that. I believe that RHA has plans in the future, perhaps on their headquarters redevelopment project, which is their next pipeline project, to be able to provide more services potentially in that facility as well. So
that is not something that is being considered for that retail space?
Council member, at this point, I do not believe so. That retail space is all market rate.
Okay.
And it's not an RHA project in itself. Perhaps as RHA develops other parcels around there may be opportunity for additional social service space in some of the new developments.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Appreciate your answers, Cliff.
Okay, other questions from council members? Ruth.
If there is not any other council member that has a question, I would like to double dip on this one. If may I, Mr.
Please, they'll have a chance if they need to.
Okay. It's a following question of my previous question, Cliff. I know that Martin is on the line, so if I remember correctly, the plan is, I think, 2 more months of construction on the downtown core. And I know that the public works have been meeting with business owners regularly to address their concerns regarding the construction. But regarding the support of the city towards these businesses, are we working with the downtown partnership? Are we working with each business owner to hold their hands and see how as a city we can help them through this time? I know that it's very hard because the pandemic is still active, but we have added a different challenge to the core, which at the end the result is going to be wonderful. But I just want to make sure that if the business owners in the downtown core know that we are there for them.
Councilmember Perez, that's a point well taken, and I think a lot of great communication has come out of the Public Works team on that. In addition, we have a new VISTA member, AmeriCorps VISTA volunteer that's assigned to downtown, and he has been out probably weekly visiting with businesses just to see how they're doing and make sure that they understand the schedule and construction and whatnot. And also the development services engineers or the inspectors down there have done a really good job as an interface between business and the contractors to make sure that to the extent possible they can minimize the impact. But we can always do a better job, and we will focus on that.
If I can add to that, in terms of the partnership with the chamber and the downtown rent partnership, as well as the businesses, if the council remembers, you adopted an ordinance back in December extending changing a lot of the rules and requirements related to shopping and parking and outside services and a whole list, signage, advertising. We adopted a whole menu of list of ideas and options during this time of COVID that ensured that businesses could be as economically viable as possible. I will use as an example the idea of opening up the city's parking garage for free for extended hours came directly from the Renton Chamber and Partnership as an example. The idea of having dedicated parking spots downtown for short-term parking, for pickup and drop-off for the restaurants, that as an example was a recommendation that came from the Renton Chamber. So when that ordinance, there's a whole list of things we adopted in there, and many of those ideas came forward from our partners in downtown.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, Council President, if you wanted me to answer the previous question from Councilmember Perez regarding the schedule for the downtown project.
Sure.
So at this point in time, we're looking at probably the end of March, beginning of April. Depends upon the weather and how it goes, but we've had a couple of setbacks on some utility, connections, and we're working through those. But they are moving forward. It's still work is progressing, and we're hoping to start getting to the point where we start forming curbs and then working our way through the intersections. You'll see a request for street closures coming through to council on the 25th. I think it's will be a referral February 1st, but coming through to council on the 25th, asking for the approval of the council to close the streets in the downtown area, partially on 2nd and fully on 3rd for a limited time period as we go about forming those intersections in concrete with the new design that's going forward. So those will be coming forward. So the project is moving to the point in time where we're kind of getting out of the ground and moving to the above ground work, but it is moving forward. And again, our goal is to get it done by spring this year.
Okay, thank you, Martin. I should keep us going, but I also want to be fair to the other council members. Any final questions on this item? I do realize we have 3 other items to cover tonight. So, okay. Well, seeing none, I thank you again, Cliff, and everybody that worked with you on that. And why don't we move on then to the long-range planning?
Thank you, Mr. President.
You're muted, Angie.
And let me share my screen. There we go. Good evening, members of the council and committee of the whole. This is a pretty brief presentation so that we can save some more time for the highlight of the accessory dwelling units. But just wanted to run past you some of the work that we accomplished this year. So we had a lot of docket items. It took us a little while to pivot given COVID and move to an online presence and conducting our business at the Planning Commission, but we still managed to get actually quite a bit of work done. The ones that you see in white are things that I'll add a little bit to. And Katie later will present to you about accessory dwelling units and the body of work that we've worked on this year with that. But you can see that we did a lot of docket items. Some of these are just relatively small changes, but some of them are pretty substantial work. Additionally, we had 4 comp plan amendments this year. Only 3 advanced to being adopted. The North 30th Street one is being held over, and we'll continue to work on that. The other 2 items that I wanted to highlight are the FEMA firm map and code amendment changes and adoption, as well as the Parks, Recreation, and National Areas Plan. And the primary reason that I wanted to focus on those is because a lot of times it's just long-range planning and current planning going to Planning Commission and Planning and Development Committee and sort of doing our work. But there are times that we get to do work with other departments, and these 2 represent work where we've partnered with our other departments of the city in order to make some changes that were pretty significant and important for our city. The FEMA map and code amendments, we'd worked with Public Works, to be able to get those adopted. And we did that on a pretty short timeline. And it was while it was not a significant body of work in terms of the length or the breadth of it, it was significant in that it preserved our residents' ability to get federal flood insurance. And that federal flood insurance is substantially less expensive than if they were to have to go out on the open market. And so this doesn't affect a lot of our residents, but for those that are affected by it, this is a pretty big deal. And so I just wanted to highlight that for a minute. And then the Parks, Recreation, and National Areas Plan, we partnered with Community Services to do, and it represents the vision of the city for what our parks and recreation and natural areas are over the next 20 years. but it also allows community services to be able to apply for grants to better leverage our city investments in our parks, recreation, natural areas plan, or natural areas, excuse me. I'll touch on real quickly our TOD, or Transit Oriented Development Sub-Area Plan that we're working on. We all know that we're planning or know that we have we're relocating the transit center from downtown here to Grady and Rainier. And so we've ballooned that out, and we're making a master plan for that, all those parcels that you see within that area that's surrounded in yellow. A lot of times folks try to just stick to a quarter-mile walk shed, but we've expanded that a little bit because we see that there's a lot of opportunity with large parcels down here in the valley that could potentially redevelop. We really want to do everything we can to catalyze the significant public investment that is going to come with those sound transit dollars to our transit center. So a little bit more on that sub-area plan. We have a stakeholder working group that has representatives from Metro, Sound Transit, WashDOT, private developers, and then we have some residents and local businesses that are a part of that stakeholder group. The consultants and our city staff have developed 3 different visions, and they have presented that. They did present that to our stakeholder group. Each of those different visions are different, and it's likely that one or more additional scenario will be created where they kind of take pieces of different ones. We have held a joint meeting with Sound Transit, WashDOT, and our own Public Works Transportation Division to discuss potential visions, identifying any barriers to those visions, and then the public investments that would be most important to ensure that this is a successful redevelopment. We really want to make sure that we're doing everything we can to take this really auto-dominated strip mall area and catalyze that into something where it's pedestrian-oriented and mixed use and just an entirely different vision of what's there currently. And staff moving forward will be presenting to Planning Commission as well as Planning and Development Committee updates on the plan, the feedback we've received from the public and our stakeholder group, and solicit additional input on the vision for our sub-area plan. And that'll happen very shortly here. And there will be several meetings to discuss with private developers as well as affordable housing developers the potential for mixed-use development or multifamily in this area. And what does that look like? Is it desirable to them? Does it make sense? Is it viable? Or are we just shooting at the wind to try to get something to happen there? I'm super hopeful that they all see the value in bus rapid transit and the connections to Bellevue and Seattle that come with that transit center. And then additionally, the scope of this plan has been amended so that it'll include a potential light rail alignment along with the stops that might come. So potentially a spur that comes from Tukwila into Renton, and making sure that that makes sense and that there's not too steep of grades and all of that kind of stuff will be folded into this plan. And then fairly recently, Sound Communities approached the city and asked us if we'd like to work with them. They are they're an advocacy group. They're leaders from the public, private, and nonprofit sector, and they're working towards creating a more vibrant, environmental, and equitable Puget Sound. We worked with a group from the UW grads program in real estate development, and they focused on just 3 cities. They chose 1 city in each county. So in Snohomish County, they chose Everett. In Pierce County, they chose Tacoma. And in King County, they chose Renton. And they were really impressed with a lot of the work that we've already done. And they looked at the project for the grad students was to forecast the financial returns that real estate development is likely to create over 20 years within our TOD sub-area. So they really narrowed it just to that sub-area that we're already planning for, and we're already working on developing a plan. Then they did some calculations and said, what if we did this intervention? And each city was somehow magically, with the magic wand, granted $50 million where they invest in land banking. So we buy particular parcels, and then we wait until development happens, and then we sell those off for other development. And then another $25 million for infrastructure investments, the key infrastructure that we need. Maybe that's utilities with sewer systems, or maybe that's something else with roads or something. But the intent and the goal was to accelerate that previous investment of 20 years to just a short period of 10 years, as well as to increase the amount of affordable housing that was built within the area. And their preliminary results have been shared. And what it really showed was that it was able to catalyze all of that investment and make it happen in a short time frame, as well as it significantly increased the amount of affordable housing that happened within the sub-area. And we are continuing to work with this group. They threw out that they would like to take this a step further and see if we can make even more things happen with some more planning and identifying what might best catalyze private investment within this sub area. And we're taking steps forward to go ahead and make that happen with Sound Communities. So it's these two different things that are sort of folding together within this sub area plan. And we're really happy and thrilled that we're being able to take advantage of this tremendous opportunity. And then this was something that I presented to our Planning Commission. And I just wanted to leave this thank you slide in there to make sure that I highlighted for you all with the Committee of the Whole that our Planning Commission, man, they did a great job this year. And I just am so proud of the body of work that they did in pivoting to an online platform that is just crazy to learn and figure out for yourself as a staff member, but for members of the public and for members of our community that maybe aren't all that familiar with even logging on and figuring out how to navigate Zoom and all this other crazy nonsense that we're doing. And they just have been marvelous. And we are so proud and thrilled that we get to work with our Planning Commission and the body of work that they've done throughout this year. So I left that in there because I didn't want to forget to thank them and make sure that you all knew that they were tremendous this year. And it's been really fun to sort of figure out this crazy crisis that we're all working with them. So thank you. That's all I have.
All right. Well, Angie, I want to join you in thanking the Planning Commission and also thank you and all the other planners and staff that have supported you. You're really plotting a course for the future along with the Planning Commission. So tomorrow's successes will be based on all this work. I know you've had to really summarize a lot of hard work in just a few minutes. And I just want to say that I recognize that there's a lot that's gone into this and a lot you covered. So thank you for that. Any questions from council? Okay. Well, yeah, thank you. And with that, we'll move on to something I know we're all pretty excited to see the results of. And we were realizing probably all of us have had a pretty big hand in this. Several members of our council have served on Planning Commission and Planning Development Committee, and a lot of this work has been a while in coming, but it's really exciting to see it all roll together. So let's go ahead with the accessory dwelling unit discussion.
Thank you, Council President Corman and council members. Can you see my screen okay?
Yes.
Okay, great. I know I've met several of you either through Planning and Development Committee or elsewhere, but for those of you who don't know me, my name is Katie Buchel-Morales, and I'm a planner in the Long Range Planning Division, and for the past 2 years or so, I've been tasked with our ADU work, from the updated code amendments to developing our permit-ready ADU program, which brings me to why I'm here this evening, which is to provide you an update on this work. So starting with what is an accessory dwelling unit, if you've not heard the term before, they're also referred to as a backyard cottage or a mother-in-law unit or a granny flat. There are lots of endearing terms for them, but generally ADUs are small self-contained dwelling units that are located on the same lot as a single-family home. They're fully independent from the primary residence, and so they provide some of the same basic functions that you would expect or what you would find in a single-family home. So they come complete with a kitchen and a living and a sleeping area and bathroom facilities, but they're just designed to be smaller or accessory to the primary residence. The exact definition for an ADU varies significantly from jurisdiction to jurisdiction, and their associated development standards as well. But in Renton, we allow ADUs that are located above a detached garage, which is a carriage house unit. It's similar to what the Fonz lived in his garage apartment above the Cunningham's garage. But we also allow standalone ADUs and garage to ADU conversions. But ADUs are not a new concept, and they have played historically a significant role in providing additional housing where housing demand has exceeded the supply, especially in high-cost communities. But they are once again gaining momentum, especially among property owners and renters and housing advocates, environmentalists, and even geriatric practitioners as a way to address affordable housing and also respond to changing social norms. So, for example, in the US, we have a very large aging baby boomer population who are living longer than their previous generational cohorts. And they've expressed an interest or desire to age in place as opposed to aging in more traditional senior housing arrangements. But a common arrangement with ADUs is that the property owner will live in the main dwelling and then rent the accessory dwelling to a family member, or maybe their aging parents or their adult children, or they might rent the accessory unit, to someone in their community. In other instances, the property owner might actually elect to live in the accessory dwelling and then rent out the primary residence to generate additional income. So really the scenario varies from individual to individual, depending on where they are in their life and what their needs are at the current time. Quickly, I just wanted to go over some of the benefits to ADU development and explain why this is something that we think is worth pursuing. First, primarily, one of the advantages to ADU development is particularly in existing single-family or existing neighborhoods, is that the infrastructure, like the roads and the utilities, already exist. So ADUs very efficiently make use of our existing housing stock and past public investments. And they also support the city's efforts to meet our household growth targets in accordance with the Growth Management Act. For existing property owners, building an ADU on the same lot as their current home is likely going to be a more cost-efficient option compared to new construction on an undeveloped lot, because they've already acquired the land, and as I mentioned, the improvements are already in place and that infrastructure is already there. But ADUs also promote more socioeconomic mobility by creating an opportunity for low and moderate income families to live in neighborhoods that they might not otherwise be able to afford, or they've been priced out of, which for a family with K through 12 students might mean access to better schools with more resources. ADUs alone cannot solve the region's housing crisis, but it is one important tool that we have available to us by increasing the inventory of market rate and affordable housing. But finally, ADUs promote housing opportunity and increase housing choice available to the community. So with residential development, typically what we see is we have single-family homes in single-family neighborhoods, and we have multifamily development. But those two options alone are not adequately serving all of our housing needs and lifestyles for a rather large and diverse population. So what's great about them is they create this flexible housing option for low and moderate income households, adult children, and aging parents, and also the caregivers for those individuals, while also maintaining independence and privacy. So a little bit on how we've come to this work and what we've been doing in the last 10 years or so. The city first adopted its ADU ordinance in 2010, and the ordinance was fairly typical of our neighboring jurisdictions and their ordinances at the time. It established an owner occupancy requirement and required architectural compatibility between the primary dwelling and the accessory dwelling, and established a maximum unit size. But in the years since the original ordinance was passed, staff has come to realize that in spite of significant public interest and inquiries that we've received, very few ADUs have actually been built. So in 2018 or 2019, we really started to look in earnest at what those barriers to ADU development are, and trying to identify those and made code amendments that would streamline our application process and reduce those barriers. So quickly, we removed the conditional use permit requirement that shaved off several weeks off of the application time and provided a cost savings to our applicants. And we eliminated what was previously a one-size-fits-all approach by creating a sliding scale to determine maximum unit size. In the past, ADUs were capped at 800 square feet or 75% of the primary dwelling, whichever was smaller. But under our new code, we've increased the maximum unit size to 1,000 square feet. And the maximum unit size now is determined by the size of the lot and the size of the primary dwelling. And finally, in order to incentivize accessory building to ADU conversions, we amended code to create some flexibility and leniency related to development standards, so not to preclude garage to ADU conversions. And then on the topic of ADU fee waivers and reductions, in 2017, Council approved an amendment to the city's fee schedule to reduce fees for transportation and parks impact fees and utility system development charges and land use review and building fees by 50%. And really the intent there was to provide a cost savings to our applicants. Those reduced fee amounts sunset actually on December 31st of past year, 2020. But once again, Council has approved an amendment to the fee schedule that would fully waive impact fees for transportation and parks, fire, and schools, or schools within the Renton School District, and then waive permit fees. Ideally, with the idea is that the money saved from the permitting costs, applicants then would be able to take that cost savings and apply it to construction and labor. Also, we have been working on developing as another approach to incentivize ADU development, the creation of ADU base plans. That these are pre-approved and engineered and could be used by residential property owners in the city. I'll have more on that topic on the next slides. But in order to support that work, we've also been working towards the development of the Permit Ready ADU program, which is our efforts to support applicants who choose to use our pre-approved ADU plans. So with our ADU base plans, like I said, we have 8 pre-designed, pre-approved, and engineered base plans that can be used by residential property owners in the city of Renton. By making these available to property owners, we are providing them a significant cost savings in the thousands because we've eliminated the need to hire a design professional, an engineer. And so again, they can take that cost savings and apply it towards actual construction. And part of the process, we completed a architectural narrative, which was a photo narrative of the existing housing inventory in the city, because we knew from the very beginning that we wanted these ADUs to be complementary and compatible with single-family neighborhoods. And we contracted consultants, including an architect and an engineering firm and energy consultants. I think Jill Souza has joined us. Jill Souza is the architect that we've contracted, and in addition to just creating very aesthetically pleasing designs, Jill has gone to great lengths to make sure that the models could feasibly be constructed on lots that have characteristics that are, very representative of residential properties in Renton, and has also helped us to further identify barriers to ADU development that were in our code, which we were then able to address in our most recent ADU amendments. So Jill, I don't know if you want to say a few words about your experience and tell everyone how much fun we've had working on this project.
Well, it has been fun for sure. It's been a great pleasure.
It's been wonderful to work with Katie and with everybody in the planning department there. I'm excited to see some of them start to get built pretty soon.
Well,
Are we?
and Jill, thank you for being here with us. And maybe as we get into looking at some of the designs, you can chime in and tell us what you like about some of them.
Sure.
All right, that would be great. That's a great idea. This first model is a 1-bedroom, 1-bath with 520 square feet of living area. This particular model was designed to be ADA accessible, and some of the models actually have the opportunity to, because of the roof pitch, would allow for a loft space just to provide some kind of flex leisure space. Anything else you want to add, Jill?
Nope.
Katie, do you want to describe the different architectural, the 5 different designs that go with the one floor plan?
Yes. So what is particularly neat about this, or at least what I think is interesting, is this is one floor plan that has 5 different architectural styles. So just by changing some of the details like the roof and other design elements, we've created this variety where the floor plan stays the same for each of these, but we've been able to accommodate a craftsman style or a hipped roof or a Victorian style design. So, and really with the goal of making sure that residential property owners looking to build an ADU can find something that meets their lifestyle needs, but also meets our design requirements and our goal of having these units being architecturally compatible with existing housing stock.
So Katie, to clarify, you had said there were 8 different models available. This is really just one model with 5 different stylistic treatments, correct?
Exactly.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And as Katie described, the architectural narrative that we created, the hope is that based on that history that we put together, the visual history of the architectural style of the homes in Renton, that one of these styles will be complementary to the existing home that's there. So we want to ensure that accessory dwelling units are embraced by the neighborhood and the community, and we're not importing something that's a foreign object, but actually complementing something that's already built on the landscape in a way that's embraced not just by the homeowner, but by the neighborhood as well.
Great. All right. Well, I should keep you moving, Katie, for in the interest of time. But this is beautiful.
This is our Model B, which is our smallest dwelling at just 416 square feet. Also, all 3 of these have a loft space above. And one thing that I did leave out is we've identified priorities for things that we took into consideration when developing these designs. And part of it was accessibility and affordability, but also we wanted them to be energy efficient. And so we identified 2 models to be more energy efficient than others, and hired a consultant to give these 2 dwellings. One of them is Model B, a preliminary HERS rating, which is a home energy rating score. So that by giving them this preliminary rating, they could potentially apply for a Green Built certification. So these are the buildings, the steps that they need to acquire that, if that's something that they're interested in. Model C is a 2-bedroom, 1-bath. There's a total of 650 square feet. This one was designed to be accessible and was one of the more affordable units to build. Model D is a 2-bedroom, 2-bath. This one is interesting because this is our largest unit at 1,000 square feet. but it's very similar to the unit that I'm about to show you next. But this one has the opportunity to have a third bedroom or just have an additional kind of flex space, leisure office area. So the next designs are very similar. They're just missing that extra piece on the first floor. This is another model that we've identified for being particularly to be designed energy efficient and to have that preliminary HERS rating. It's a 2-bedroom, 1-bath with 602 square feet of living area. And model J, this one is one of my personal favorites. It's a 2-bedroom, 1-bath carriage house unit. So all of the living area in this one is located above the garage. And then this is the last one, and it is a 3-bedroom, 2-bath. It's the second largest one that we have. Because of the 3 bedrooms and 2-bath, I think this one, if I had to guess, might be for folks who are interested in renting out the property as to help generate additional income, just because of the size and livability of it. How are we on time?
Well, I guess part of this is a question maybe back for Chip. We've got one more item tonight. Do you know how much time that's going to require?
Well, I know Hannah was looking forward to having 20 minutes, but Council President Corman, if it's okay with you and okay with Hannah, maybe we could reschedule the housing action plan for a subsequent meeting.
Yeah. How's the time sensitivity with that? Will you be able to keep moving forward with the housing action plan, even if we don't bring it back for a couple of weeks?
Council President, there's no time sensitivity on this, and it would be great to have time for your questions and comments.
Okay.
So I'm happy to let Katie take up this time so she can get the input as well.
Okay. Well, I thank you for the flexibility then. Yeah, let's go ahead then and keep discussing the accessory dwelling units.
Okay, thank you, Hannah. So as I mentioned, to support our applicants with the ADU-based plans, those who decide to use those, we have created a permit-ready ADU program to help support them through that process. So it would start with planning customer service, which is pretty consistent with how most projects start. It would be a very informal yet informational exchange of information. In this case, the applicant would inquire about the program either in person, hopefully someday, or via email or over the phone or through the city's website. The exchange would last 15 to 20 minutes. Staff would look at the applicant's property on core maps and provide a quick assessment of the lot and help the applicant identify which models could be accommodated on their property based on lot size, height, and impervious surface area. And then before sending them to development and engineering, we would then give them a rundown on timelines and what to expect with the application process, and give them all of the information that they would need at this point in time in order to apply for what we're calling a ADU pre-screen meeting. So with the pre-screen meeting is designed to function similar to our pre-application meetings, where staff reviews a project and then provides preliminary comment. The applicant would apply for the pre-screen meeting through our online portal, and then would provide information like the model that they selected, their lot information, and then we would ask them to upload photo documentation of the style of the existing home. And then staff would review their materials provided by the applicant, and we would create for them a site plan and a 3D rendering of what the model would look like on their property. So this is really important because, one, it also eliminates the need for them to hire a design professional or someone who can put together a site plan for them. But it also gives them an idea of what the unit would look like on their lot with the existing home. So with the staff review time, that would be about 2 weeks. And then we would have the ADU pre-screen meeting, which would be attended by a current planning project manager and someone from development engineering. And they would present the 3D models and the site plan to the applicant. And they would receive a completed checklist and review comments and the site plan, unless, of course, they requested changes and they wanted to move the structure 20 feet to the left. Then they would receive all of that at that time. And then staff would stamp and finalize the plan sets internally. But we're not releasing those plan sets yet to the public, at least at this stage in the process. We would then ask them to submit a letter of authorization, which to us at the city signals that the applicant is interested in moving forward, and this will be a required document that they would be required to provide at the time of building permit application. It's a city-issued document, and it would be signed by the city and the applicant, and it accomplishes a few different things. It can be used so that the applicant can take it to their financial lender when they go to apply for their loan. And it also establishes the expectation that we don't want the applicant to share the plan sets for use at other rented properties that haven't already had this meeting. And we don't want them to be circulated for use outside of the city. So then the applicant would apply for and obtain their building permit. And that would be done similar to our existing permitting process. And then once the permit is issued, that's when the applicant would receive the complete plan sets from the building department. And we have established from the time that they have applied to the time that they receive their permits that it would be a 1 week turnaround time, but we hope to reduce that time, hopefully to a 24-hour turnaround time. So after they receive their building permit, then they are cleared for construction, and construction begins. Inspections are scheduled, and then they'll have their final inspection and receive their certificate of occupancy, which means they are move-in ready and cleared to move in. We have been working in anticipation of the rollout of this program on several different materials to support this work, including what is an informational lookbook. It takes a deep dive into ADUs and covers a lot of the same information that I've shared with you all this evening. And it also includes the ADU base plans, the permit-ready ADU application process, and frequently asked questions. This is a drafted cover that we've created in-house. We plan to advertise this program through, of course, a press release, through the mayor's newsletter. We want to take advantage of our social media outlets, utility billing adverts. I'm really looking forward to hopefully at some point having yard signs. So those that decide to develop ADUs through our program might be willing to put a small sign in their yard showing that they did that. I think that'll be a great way to really get eyes on the ground and maybe draw attention to this work. And of course, planning customer service. And then, as I said, the informational lookbook with the base plans and application process will be another way that we'll advertise this. And it will be available online and in print eventually. So moving on, I had mentioned that one of the ways that we're working to incentivize ADUs is through reduced and waived ADU fees. Just wanted to give you a visual of what that looks like. And initially, all of this more or less was reduced at 50%. Like I said, that sunsetted December 31st of this year. So what remains at 50% are the system development charges for water service and wastewater development, but your building permit application, building plan review, and transportation or impact fees, school impact fees, transportation, parks, fire, those have all been waived at 100%. And assuming that site improvements don't need to be made, I would guess that applicants would have access to these plans if all goes accordingly for the cost of $6.50, and that is just the state building code fee, and that's a fee that we have to charge. But considering how many resources that we're giving to applicants, it's very nominal.
Can I interrupt and ask one question? So where we show the water service and wastewater development at $7,800 reduced at 50%. So somebody building an ADU, would they pay half of $7,800 or would they pay the whole $7,800 for that one?
Because of the amendments that we made to the fee schedule that went into effect the first of the year, it is at half of $7,800.
Okay, good. Thanks.
And if I can add to that, the issue, we would have loved to have been able to waive everything, but because the sewer and water utilities are enterprise funds, they don't have the ability to do that legally. So what we did was work with them to create a fee structure that was defensible based on the size of the units to reduce the cost.
Okay, good.
So before opening up for questions, I think I saw Doug was also on the call. I think he was going to brief council on recent ADU-related state legislation and incentives.
I am on. Thanks, Katie. Just a quick note for council that there are a couple of bills dealing with accessory dwelling units, one dealing with property tax incentives that I think is worthy of support, and another one that Representative Gregerson is working with several groups on that is meant to incentivize ADU construction. I think one concern we have with the Representative Gregerson bill is that it's good in the sense of it being incentive-based and not mandating, but what it does is it offers up a way for localities to qualify for either sales tax, the state portion of sales tax, or property tax credits, but only if they do very specific, very prescriptive things on ADUs. For example, totally prohibiting any requirement for off-street parking and no owner occupancy requirements of any sort. And as you heard from our folks, we have ways that those things can be relaxed under our ordinance. So I think we wanted to let council know that we hope to be able to sit down with Representative Gregerson, thank her for what she's trying to do with an incentive-based approach, and maybe suggest some refinements to this that might work a bit, make a bill work better.
And Doug, if I may, that it sounds like even if that legislation passed, that doesn't prohibit what we're doing. It's a package of incentives we could be eligible for if we stepped up to some of those other requirements, correct?
That's a very good characterization, Council President Corman. So it wouldn't be any sort of a hindrance or a harm to us. It's just the way it's constructed now, we wouldn't qualify for the incentives that are being offered up. And we think with a little bit of fine tuning, it could be. And so given all the work that's been done here with CED and, per the direction you've given, we'd like to see if we can make that work.
Okay, great. All right, I'd like to open it up to questions from the rest of council at this point. maybe physically raise your hand if you have any questions. Yes, Valerie.
Yeah, thank you. I just want to say that I think this is an awesome program, and the units are so attractive and just downright cute in some cases. And the package that we put together for people to take advantage of all of this hard work that has gone into this, it's just, I'm very, extremely proud to be a part of this. So thank you.
Thank you for that, Valerie. Yeah, I wanted to say with Jill here with us too, I know that most of us on council got a chance to look at these, and so she probably didn't get to see our candid responses. I know everybody was really excited by this work. They're beautiful as well as functional, and to the people that will be enjoying the use of these designs, I don't know if they'll ever realize how much work goes into it, because she's found a way to meet all of the codes for access and safety, while keeping the footprint as small as possible, and still making a beautiful product that's going to be a comfortable, nice place to live. So thank you, Jill, for that. And I think I'll just take a minute more to just maybe clarify that I understand. So really, because of the intellectual property involved in these designs, will residents that want to build, that go through our process, will have access to complete building plans that they can build. But the restriction is they can't photocopy those and send them to a friend in another city without really sort of violating our contract with the architect that prepared them. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah. But for residents of Renton, which have really paid through their taxes and our hiring of Jill to do this work, they're available. So what a great program. I mean, I think people are really going to like this. So I see Angelina's got her hand raised.
Thank you so much, Council President. I am so in love with this work. It is just amazing what the department has been able to come up with, and agree totally with Councilmember O'Halloran that, this is, the design product itself is really beautiful. According to my rough calculations, am I really reading that somebody who decides to participate in this program is going to have an advantage of about $20,000 worth of fees waived?
At least.
Yeah, just as a start. Okay, that's fantastic. What an incentive. I wanted to also, just for folks who might be considering this, what's the applicant's level of commitment through the pre-screen process? If it turns out that they go through pre-screen and it just doesn't work out, are they out anything?
No.
No, Councilmember Benedetti.
No.
Okay. And if a person went through that process and they realized for their property that they had to make minor modifications, just moving a pipe one direction or another or something in order to make it work, are those kinds of modifications allowed? And still, if they largely use the plan, and are they still going to receive the benefit from it?
But we have tried to get as many possible variants that they could do into the plan set, so that we've identified like load-bearing walls that they can't change. They'll be free to do anything on the interior they want to do. If they want to move their refrigerator from one side of their, they can obviously do that. It just can't affect the structural issues and exterior expression that kind of agreed that we want to set a high standard for. So,
Mr. President?
Yes, Ed?
I just wanted to say, because I know time's getting late, first, this is a long time coming, so I'm glad that we finally have gotten this. And second, I really think what we have here, as the region continues to have conversations about affordable housing options, I think what we have is going to be a model for the rest of the cities in the region. And I think that everyone who worked on this should be commended. I was in a growth management planning board meeting last week, and we were talking about ADUs, and I really think this can be a model for what we're looking at for the region.
Yeah. Looks like council agrees with you from the head nods. Yeah, thank you, Ed, for that. Yeah, I should let anybody else from council speak. We do only just have a few minutes left. Any other questions, comments? Katie, I just wanted to clarify. So you showed us the schedule of sort of activities if somebody approached the planning department, and you mentioned the goal is to eventually get that building permit time down to 24 hours, but you also mentioned the site review is going to take a couple of weeks. So I think the expectation is that whole process that you showed is probably like maybe a 3-week or 4-week process, something like that.
Correct. So the idea is to front load a lot of that. Well, first, because they are pre-approved and pre-engineered, we've really been able to cut down on the review time that is required. But we've front loaded that review time as part of the pre-application meeting screening. So by the time that they come in for their building permits, right now, like as we're working through the process, it might take us a week to work out what we don't know, but our goal in the long term is to reduce that turnaround time by 24 hours.
And when can people start approaching the city?
I would welcome anyone to start contacting planning customer service now. Right. I envision that we'll roll out the program in March, and so if we can have those early conversations now, that would be ideal.
All right.
That'd be great.
Great.
If I can add, one of the things Katie gave the table of contents for the permit-ready accessory dwelling unit, and that's going to have a web presence, and through all of our marketing and notices, we're going to push people to that website that provides all this information on it. And I don't know if you noticed Katie's first bullet in the table of comments. Katie, do you mind repeating the first bullet about ADU who?
I think it's ADU what, ADU who, ADU.
Okay, that's cute.
So anyway, it's going to be A to Z though, in terms of giving people all of the information, the process, the fees, the plans, all the explanatory text about what it is, so people can, at their own leisure and their own time, really begin to research and figure it out for themselves. But then it puts them in touch with us when they're ready to take that step, you know, how to get a hold of us. So we're going to have the website with the book that's consistent, and we're going to drive everybody to that place.
Right. Great plan. All right. Final questions comments from council members? Okay, so Katie, thank you so much. Jill, thank you for all your work with Katie on this. Yeah, we should applaud. And thank you for joining us here tonight, and thanks for the presentation. Chip, thank you for your involvement, and thanks to all the council members that have worked so hard on this. Really something to celebrate, and I completely agree with Ed Prince's comment that it will become a model program. So, well done. All right, and with that, I'm going to go ahead and adjourn the committee of the whole meeting, and we'll reconvene as a council. Oh, yeah, in a few minutes. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.